Hello everyone. I would like to share my experience in virtual exchange with you. So today I'm going to speak about learning outside the box and I'll focus on the challenges and achievements in virtual exchange. So my objectives will be how to learn outside the box, what are the challenges in virtual exchange and what are the achievements in virtual exchange. But before that, I would like to begin with an activity that we usually use when we would like to introduce new concepts to our students, which is brainstorming. What type of box or boxes do we mean here? The classroom, conventional learning, comfort zone, context, learning style, conservatism, status quo, preconceptions, misconceptions, culture, attitudes, beliefs, prejudices or rigidity, stereotypes. In fact, there's another kind of boxes in the Arab culture, which is called the world box, صندوق الدنيا in the Middle East. And in Tunisia, we call it magic box, صندوق عجب, because it connects us to the world. As you can see, these children discover new cultures, new stories throughout this box. And what attracts me most is this smile of satisfaction on the face of this guy. There are other modern magic boxes like this TV, the magic box, and you can see the same amazement with this box that changed our lives forever. There is another magic box, more modern and magic box, which is the computer or the mediated technologies of computer or the social media. Now people learn online and they enter into contact with people from different cultures through online media. Now, these are two groups that enter into contact in virtual exchange. But I noticed that every learner is a box, an individual box, and every box has its own background and education and culture and thoughts and beliefs and feelings and desires and preferences. And through virtual exchange, there are reciprocal movements, there are give and take and partnerships. But who is going to regulate all these movements? It's the facilitator of facilitators. But on the intercultural level, we call them mediators because they mediate between members of different cultures. So, why we use virtual mobility? Why we opt for virtual mobility? The answer is very simple because physical mobility is very hard, it's costly, and there are hard visa requirements. So, we opt for virtual mobility as a substitute because we don't need a lot of funds. We only need a platform to prepare our course, etc. And virtual mobility today is needed as a requirement for physical mobility. Now, I can tell you an anecdote. One of my brilliant students last year, I told him to participate in one of my virtual exchange projects, and he said yes, and he registered, but finally he didn't participate and he didn't answer to my emails, etc. But then after 1 year, he sent me an email and said, I need a certificate to prove that I participated in such a project because Erasmus Plus told me that I need that for a scholarship from one of notorious universities in Britain. Now, I would like to give you a summary of the two virtual exchanges I set up with my partner, Ruth, from the Catholic University of Valencia, Spain. So I prepared this table and compared both courses. The first one was Marketing Across Cultures, and the second, Think Local, Work Global in Virtual Teams. So they were set up in different timings. The first one was during the last month of second semester, and everybody was busy with exams, everybody was tired, but we tried to manage. It was during Ramadan, and my Muslim colleagues will certainly understand the pain of teaching and learning and during Ramadan, especially in the last hours of the day. We had different time zones, so the European colleagues were 1 hour ahead of us. And it was also during the first wave of COVID-19 in which we didn't know uh, much about this virus. And some of the students either caught the virus or one of their relatives caught it. So it was really frustrating. Now, the second course was during the first month of the first semester, and everybody was fresh, everybody was eager to learn and prepared to learn. We had the same time zones, and it was during the second wave of COVID-19 in which we knew a lot of about this virus. Now, both courses had different topics. So the first one was about marketing campaigns and principles across cultures, and we used business English, of course. But the second one was about global citizenry skills, and we used legal English. In both courses, we had different educational backgrounds. So my students were principally IT students, and Roots students were principally business students. But in the second course, my students were still IT students, but Roots students were legal students. But in both courses, we had the same structure. We used the same structure. The first phase was called preparation phase. We prepared our students for the intercultural experience. They introduced themselves and they reflected on their fears and their worries or expectations from the course, etc. The second phase was called reflection phase. We posted some resources and links to them, and they reflected on them on the forums and in the synchronous sessions. The interaction phase was the third one. We put them into partnerships. I don't like the word groups because here they are partners, not members of a team. They are partners because everything about their culture is, or respective culture, is introduced. And the fourth phase was the production phase, in which they produced, in the first course, they produced a simulation of a marketing campaign according to the cultures that are included in the partnerships. So, for example, if we have a group of one Italian and one French and one Tunisian student, so the marketing campaign will be made according to these three cultures. In the second course, they try to present ideas and solutions for some problems in their respective communities, and these productions were very important and interesting. Now, I would like to reflect on this picture. Look at this lady rabbit. She had that obstacle in front of her, and instead of jumping, instead of relying on the support of her owner, she did it. She tried to find her own solution. So she tried to change the challenge into an opportunity and then into achievement. And this is what we did in our two virtual exchange. Now, if I would like to summarize the challenges in the two virtual exchanges we did, I would like to use an adjective which is heterogeneous. It will summarize everything. We had heterogeneous cultures. Now, the Tunisian group was monocultural. They were all Tunisian students. And the group of my partner, Ruth, was pretty much multicultural. There are Spanish, there are Italian students, French students, students from Ecuador, students from Pakistan, etc. And we use this as an opportunity for cultural diversity and, of course, intercultural communication. And the achievement was developing their intercultural skills. We had also heterogeneous languages. I'm speaking about the mother languages or tongues of these students and, of course, of the tutors. We had students who have the Hungarian language or the Spanish language or the Portuguese language, and this was an opportunity for linguistic diversity, which is a must we needed for intercultural communication. We had also heterogeneous levels of English. Now, what I noticed here is that we all were non-native speakers of English, and we used English as a lingua franca. So we used our own language somehow. We used some expressions of our languages to enrich this lingua franca, but we mainly relied on using English, and that's why uh, many students practiced the English language and developed their English skills during that period. We had also heterogeneous specialties. So, as I said, my students were IT ones, and the students of my partner were mainly business students or legal students. So there was an opportunity for collaboration, and therefore the achievement is developing their collaboration skills. We had also heterogeneous modes of learning. My students are mainly or principally online learners, and they're IT students, of course. And the students of Root were principally face-to-face learners. So there was a lot of support from the Tunisian students who were online, and this developed their media literacy, especially Root's group. Now, we also had heterogeneous educational backgrounds and systems. And I can give you an example. One of my students shared a picture of himself beekeeping with his child. And there was this question, are you a beekeeper? And then the discussion started about the educational background and policy. And this student spoke about the fact that in the primary school, we used to do some activities of agricultural activities like beekeeping, etc. And the products were sold and the money was collected, and we bought equipments for the school. So this was kind of learning style in the educational system of Tunisia, and the students felt engaged and felt this belonging to their school. So the achievement here is that both groups shared knowledge and experience about their educational backgrounds and systems and policies. Now, who's this guy? It's the teacher. We teachers should teach outside the box too. And that was our case. So in the case of Ruth, she is mainly face-to-face teacher, and she was really afraid of online teaching. Now, we prepared for the course, the first course, even before the COVID-19 crisis. So I supported her in many ways to teach online. And after these two virtual exchange projects, uh, Ruth became an expert in online teaching and in virtual exchange. And in her university now, if there is any virtual exchange or online teaching, they ask her about it. Now, in my case, of course, I'm basically an online teacher. I don't have this fear, but I have another fear of phobia, which is collaboration. Yes, I confess that I've never collaborated with anyone nationally or internationally. And I took advantage of these projects to overcome my fear, and it was my opportunity to overcome this fear. And I think by the end of these virtual exchanges, I became an expert in international collaboration. Now, virtual exchange is also a win-win strategy for students and teachers, because the teachers or the students, they get an open electronic badge at the end of the virtual exchange, and they can show it in CVs. It's good for their employability because everybody now needs this skill for employability. Now, the teachers too, they get an electronic badge, which is called Transnational Virtual Exchange Project Coordinator. Now, as a conclusion, my dream is to erase this picture from our educational systems and policies, which is boxing. In Arabic, we say ta'lib, as opposed to ta'lim, education. In Tunisia, we call it that way. So, because that dream is very hard today, but at least literally speaking, I can erase this by pressing the button. Okay, so one of the solutions to avoid this boxing at Ta'lib by virtual exchange. And as I said, we should not look at the challenges as obstacles, but we have to see them as opportunities and then turn them into achievements. So the achievements of the virtual exchange, not only for the learners, but also for the teachers. Um, we develop our intercultural skills, employability skills, media literacy. We work into international virtual teams, and we develop our language skills. Now, this is a useful link of this platform, Collaboration Training. It's under Erasmus Plus, and you can find the trainings that you would like to have in order to set up your own exchange project. Now, I would like to finish with this amazing picture. This is what we really need. This is satisfying. This is rewarding because, of course, we don't get money out of virtual exchange projects, but this is our richness. This is our reward. And another rewarding thing is getting words of thanks from our students. Now, I can read it for you. We would like to thank all those who have helped and supported us. So our deepest thanks to Miss Dorsaf and Melek and Miss Ruth Muniz, who guided us well during those courses and for their encouragement and their sound advice. And as you can see, this is really rewarding. And in my turn, I would like to thank you very much. Shukran jazilan for your attention.